Hare Krishna, everyone.
Hare Krishna.
I think this is the first time I've been to the program here in Westworth Village. My great pleasure to be with you tonight. And I'd like to see a very enthusiastic devotees. Because Prabhupada told us one time when he came to Melbourne, he said one time we picked him up from the airport and we drove him back to the temple, and then he was on the Vyasasam, and then he was leading the Jai Radha Madhava and the Hare Krishna, and then the devotees were dancing and chanting and very enthusiastically. So Prabhupada at the end he said, I know the Krishna consciousness is going very well here because you are dancing and chanting so nicely and you have the bright faces. So he told us like that. So you appear also to be the same. Tonight I've been asked to speak on Bhishma Dev. You all must be knowing about Bhishma Dev. He's a very famous figure from the Mahabharata in history, and he is one of our great authorities. He is one of the great Mahajans. Of course, the word Mahajan means great person, but in the Srimad Bhagavatam, and Prabhupada explained to us, beyond just great person, there are recognized authorities within the universe from the past and so on, that they are Swami, Narada, Sambhu, Kumara, Kapilo, Manu, Janaka, Bhishma, Bali, Vayashiki, Vayam, the 12 Mahajans. They are recognized. So Swami, Narada, Sambhu, Swami means Lord Brahma. Lord Brahma, he is one of the great, he is the Acharya of our Sampradaya, of course. And he is the first being within the universe, and so he is, and his knowledge came directly from the Supreme Lord. He is a great Mahajan, he is a great authority. Narada, of course, Narada Muni, you've all heard of the Narada Muni, he is very famous. He is one of the Mahajans. Lord Shiva, Janaka, Bhishma, Prahlad Maharaj, King Janak, Bhishma Dev, like Sukadev Goswami, Yamaraj. These are the great Mahajans, recognized Mahajans of the universe, not only here, but throughout because Narada Muni, Lord Brahma, Yamaraj, they are not just of this world, they are of all the worlds. So when someone wants to understand something, he can approach these Mahajans. So Bhishma Dev, he is like that. Now Shiva has asked me to speak especially on the prayers of Bhishma Dev to Lord Krishna. This is in the Srimad Bhagavatam, in the 9th chapter, where after the battle of Kurukshetra was finished, and Bhishma Dev had been defeated actually by Arjuna, but of course Shikandi was in the front. That's how Bhishma Dev, he gave the indication, because he couldn't be defeated by anyone. So he gave the indication how he could be defeated. And he said, if someone was formerly the female but now is presenting as the male, I will put down my weapons, I will not fight. So that's how they put the Shikandi in the chariot in the front. And so Bhishma, he put these weapons, and Arjuna was able to throw the arrows at him. And so he had full of the arrows, and he lay on the bed of the arrows on the battlefield. So at that time, he had the benediction. He could die whenever he wanted to die. That benediction he got from his father, King Shantanu, because he sacrificed so much for his father. So he gave the benediction, his father gave the benediction, and you can die whenever you want. So he was lying on the bed of the arrows. And then all the warriors, because when he was felled, then all the warriors came there, but of course, they were all asking, what can we do for you? Can we? Yes, I want some pillow, because my body is resting on the arrows, but my head is falling back. So then Duryodhana and others, they came and got some nice pillow, and then he said, no, I want a pillow befitting a warrior. These pillows are not befitting a warrior. So Arjuna, he understood, he fired some more arrows, just enough for his head, and then Then he laid back his head. So he was lying there for some time. I think maybe 2 months he was lying there because he was waiting for the sun, Uttarayanam. He was waiting for the sun to go in the north, auspicious time to leave the world. And so at that time, when Yudhisthira Maharaj, after the battle of Kurukshetra, he was feeling a little bit sad because he told his brothers that on account of me becoming emperor, so many here have died. He said like that. And they went back to Hastinapur, so he was feeling sad. And actually he was feeling so sad he just kept in his room. For many days he didn't come out. And actually he told his brothers, he told Bhimsena, he said, Bhimsena, these men, so many millions have died for my sake, I don't want to be the emperor. He said, you be the emperor. You should be, I don't want. So Bhimsena tried to talk with him, and Krishna came, and so many came there. Finally, he had reservation, but finally Krishna suggested, let us go and see Bhishma Dev. He will give some good instruction. He gave Bhishma Dev. Now, you know the story of Bhishma Dev before, that formerly, I mentioned King Shantanu, and formerly Shantanu was one king, a very, very valiant warrior on earth, and he helped the demigods, and he attained the heaven. So when he attained the heaven, he was in the court of the Brahma one time, and Ganga came there, and he was very attracted to Ganga. Of course, this was an incident when the wind blew her dress, and all the others were bowing their heads, but he was looking at Ganga. So Lord Brahma became angry and cursed him. You will have to curse him and Ganga. So they both took the birth on the earth. But of course, Ganga said that when I come on the earth, I will appear to you, but you cannot question any of my actions. I will marry with you, but you cannot question any of my actions. If you question any of my actions or become angry with anything I do, then I will immediately disappear. So he agreed to that. And so the story of Bhishma comes that before he was one of the Vasus. One of the Vasus. There are 8 Vasus. Have you ever heard of the Vasus? There are 8 Vasus, and they are assistants of Lord Indra. And in that they are elemental gods. And they help, just like before, Bhishma was one of the Vasus. His name was Jos. Jos means is the sky, the dawn, when the sunlight, when the light first comes. And so the others also are named like that. One is for the earth, one is for the fire. They assist the other gods. One is for the water, one is for the stars, one is for the moon, like that. So the Vasus are elemental gods. And so one time the Vasus were out in the forest, and the one very beautiful cow, Kamandenu cow, was there. And it was Jo's wife. Oh, this is a very beautiful cow. I don't know who this cow belongs to, but just take it. Just take it. So then Joe got the help of his brothers. We should take this cow. We don't know, but my wife is wanting, so we'll take this cow. So later on, Vashishta, he was the owner of the cow. He's a great rishi. The rishis have cows for getting the milk and getting the ghee for their Brahminical activity. So he, by his mystic power, he understood that that cow had been stolen. He found out it was stolen, but then he knew how it was stolen. So then he became angry, and he summoned them. He said, you have stolen this cow belonged to me, you have stolen this cow. So you must get the curse. You will be born on earth. So the Vasus, they pleaded with him, oh please, we didn't realize we have made a great mistake. Please forgive us. Then Vashishta said, all right, 7 of you, because you were just assisting, you will just be born and immediately you will die and you'll come back again. But the one of you, this doll, he was the ringleader. He has to stay a long time on earth. But then he said, but he will become known as a very virtuous man. He will live a long life, but he will have no wife or family. But he will have a long life and he will be very famous and he will be very virtuous. So this is the story, the history of Bhishma Dev. Bhishma came, and then Shantanu came. Of course, I told the other story. He married Ganga, and then but then there was the condition: don't question any of my activity. So then those Vasus, they came one after the other, and each time Ganga Devi, she came and she went to her own waters, to the Ganga, and she threw the baby in the water. Of course, that baby immediately went back again. But all the Shantanu saw was the baby being thrown in the river. So he was very, but he knew, I can't say anything otherwise. So again, every year like that, each time, he was so much filled with, so depressed and crying and everything, but he didn't say anything. But then on the 8th time, he couldn't bear any longer. He became angry. Each year I've tolerated, you've done this. Why, how you can be so heartless, cruel? And she said, well, now you remember the condition. Now you have become angry. Now you are questioning me. So now I cannot stay with you as a wife anymore. That was the condition. But this one, this baby, he will live a long life. And he will be very famous. But first of all, I have to take him to be trained in all the different sciences. He will be trained by the greatest rishis of the universe. He was trained by Brihaspati. He is the priest of the gods. All the different Vedic sciences, political science. He was trained by the Vashishta and all the Angas of the Veda. He was trained by Sukracharya. He was trained by Parashurama in the military science. So many he was trained by. So she took him away. So actually Shantanu didn't see his son for a long time. But then one time, and then of course Ganga had left. But then one time when that happened, then Shantanu just lived as like a brahmachari. But then he was walking along the Ganga one time and he saw one young man there. So at that time he wasn't known as Bhishma, he was known as Devavrata. But Devavrata could see, he understood that this was his father, but his father Shantanu couldn't recognize immediately. So he came there and he looked at him, and the boy was practicing his military weapons, and then all of a sudden he disappeared. But then Shantanu could understand, actually, I think this is my son. So then he called out to Ganga, his wife. He said, I know that he was my son. Please bring him before me. So then Ganga appeared and she brought the son, appeared before him. So then now he has been trained by all the great leaders of the universe. He is very qualified. He is a great person. Please you take him, but now of course I'm going back to the heavens. So he took him and he took him back to the, of course Shantanu was he was the emperor of Hastinapur. And he made him the heir apparent, crown prince to the throne. So this was the situation. And later on, of course, I think it was like about 3 or 4 years later, of course, Shantanu was unmarried. but he was went out in the forest and by the river, and he saw one very beautiful girl, Satyavati, and she was the daughter of a fisherman. Of course, she was a whole story to Satyavati. She was from the heavens also. She had the curse on her. So she was there. But he became very attracted, and he approached the father. I'm very attracted to your daughter. Please allow me to marry her. And the father said, yes, well, that's all right, but my condition is that her sons become the in line to the throne. Shantanu, he said, well, I cannot give that, I can't fulfill that condition because I've already made my other son, he is the crown prince, so I cannot. So he went back home again. But Devavrata could see that he was not looking the same all the time. He was looking a little depressed. So he asked him, what is the father, what is the... So he wouldn't say, but then he found out that he'd seen one girl that he wanted to marry, and the reason was that. So he went to see the girl and see the father, and he said, please allow my father to marry your daughter. Now only if her sons can be. So then I will allow. I will give up being the heir apparent, the crown prince. But then the father said, but what if your sons, they will want to claim the position? Then that's when he said that, everybody said, then I will not get married. He took the vow, lifelong brahmachari. So at that time he was not married yet. And so he took the vow, lifelong brahmachari. And the gods in the heavens heard, oh, he's taken such a determined vow, and they named Bhishma one of the determined vow. So this is the story of Bhishma, that he took the determined, his life is notable for so many things, so many wonderful qualities he has, especially his sacrifice for the sake of his father and for the sake of the kingdom. So Bhishma is a very illustrious person, and Mahajan, he was trained in all the different aspects of knowledge, and he was actually a great devotee of Lord Vishnu. Great devotee of Lord Vishnu. He was a worshipper of Lord Vishnu. So he learned all the duties of the king, the duties of the brahmanas, the duties of all the varna and ashram. He learned all these things. As I said, all the political sciences, so many subjects he knew. He was very proficient, he was very experienced, very expert. He was also a very great warrior. He had all celestial weapons he learned from Parashuram and all other gods, from Shiva also. He had celestial weapons. So no one could defeat him. And he could die whenever he chose to die. So at that time, and during the Battle of Kurukshetra, I already explained how he put his weapons down, and Shikandi was in the chariot with Krishna and Arjuna, and he was in the front. So Bhishma put his weapons down, and then Arjuna was able to fire the weapons, and he was felled. So when he was lying on the bed of arrows, Yudhishthira came there, with Krishna, with so many others, all came there. And so he spoke on many subject matters. To Yudhishthira, what is the duties of the king? What is the duties of all the different castes, as I said? What is the political science? What is dharma? What is the spiritual practice? What ethics and morals one should follow? For example, Bhishma said that one should, with the mind, body and words, one should not tell any lies. One should be truthful. One should not be lustful. One should not become angry. One always take advice In important decisions, always take advice from others. Don't be greedy for others' possessions. Many instructions he gave like that to Yudhisthira, how to be the good king. Then finally, when the sun came in the direction, in the north, he saw the sun, and then I want to read one verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam. Sri Bhishma Uvacha Iti Mati Upakalpita Vidrishna Bhagavati Sattvata Pungave Vimumni Svasukam Upagati Kvatchit Vihatum Prakritim Upayushi Yadbhava Pravahaha. Bhishma Dev said, "Let me now invest my thinking, feeling and willing, which were so long engaged in different subjects and occupational duties, in the all-powerful Lord Sri Krishna. He is always self-satisfied, but sometimes, being the leader of the devotees, he enjoys transcendental pleasure by descending to the material world, although from him only the material world is created." So this is a very wonderful statement of Bhishma Dev. He understood that the Lord, from him only the world comes. But sometimes he also descends within the world he created. And he performs so many different pastimes, especially for the pleasure of his devotees. He comes for the pleasure. Paritranaya saranam vinasaya chadushkam. These are punishing of the demons. These are secondary. Yada dharma, establishing the religious principles. These are important, but they are secondary, because the prime reason for Krishna's coming is to give pleasure to his devotees, to engage in the leelas with his devotees, to associate with his devotees, and to the asuras, establishing the dharma, setting the standards, the principles. These subsequently he engages and sets these different standards and principles. So Bhishma Dev understood very well what is the position of Krishna. The world comes from him, but he comes within the world. He is always self-satisfied. Now, it's not that he is just like we are always looking for something to do because we are not satisfied, looking here, looking there, and we get bored. We're doing the same thing all the time. We want to do the different things. Krishna is not like that. This is the position of the conditioned soul. Restless mind, senses everywhere, mind everywhere, and always moving from. Krishna is self-satisfied. He is Atmaram, self-satisfied. But yet again, he enjoys certain activities with the devotees. So he is self-satisfied, but he is the leader, and he avails himself to his devotees. He is Bhakta Vatsala. He very much enjoys being with his devotees. Prabhupada said that a devotee follows in the footsteps of Krishna. Devotee is just very satisfied. One time Prabhupada said that a devotee gave definition of devotee, or Vaishnava. He said, definition of Vaishnava is that he can just sit, chant Hare Krishna, he is very happy. He is very happy. And if there's some service to do, he'll do it. He likes to associate with the devotees. If there's something to be done, otherwise he'll just sit, chant Hare Krishna. He's perfectly happy. With Prabhupada we saw like that, just chanting Hare Krishna. Sometimes he would walk, many hundreds of devotees walking with him. Sometimes just one devotee walking with him. He didn't mind whether one devotee, 100, 1,000 devotees. For him, same. Because he is self-satisfied. And I've said before, when he came to Australia one time, one reporter asked him, he said, "Your Divine Grace, how you like this country?" And Prabhupada said, "I like everywhere." Because everywhere is same. So someone in the God consciousness, everywhere he goes, he is with God. And I was just reading, when one disciple was asking Prabhupada when he first went to America, it must have been very difficult because he was just by himself. And Prabhupada said, oh, I was never actually just by myself. I was with Krishna. Krishna was with me. I was with my Guru. My Guru was with me. Actually, I was never alone. This is the position of devotee. So Bhishma Dev, he is so wonderful. Now here, he was engaged in so many different subjects, as I already described. He is just knows all the different subjects, so many duties he had. But now he thought, let me now, that I'm coming, I want to invest my thinking, feeling and willing. Now this is very interesting because thinking, feeling and willing are the activities of the mind. Mind is very essential to be focused. We know in the yoga practice, Chanchalam Imana Krishna, Mana, Arjuna says this mind is very restless. If one wants to practice the yoga, one has to control the mind, one has to focus the mind. Mind is very important for any spiritual practice. And what is the mind activities? The mind activities, one activity is thinking. Everyone, we all know. How we are thinking. With our mind, we are thinking. This is one of the activities of the mind, to think. Not with the other things we're thinking. Eyes don't think. Ears, nose doesn't think. The mind is thinking, isn't it? The mind is thinking. So one of the activities of the mind, thinking. And we're thinking so many things. We're thinking this, thinking that. Especially in the modern age. I was reading one article that survey done over many countries, that people are working so hard, so many different things, so many anxieties, that they're thinking that they have trouble sleeping. People are complaining about sleep, they can't sleep because they try to sleep, they're thinking this problem, that problem, that. No one can sleep very well anymore because thinking so many anxieties. The thinking is very much part of the activity of the mind. And feeling, now with the mind, now we can feel with the senses, the gross physical senses. We feel, we touch something, we can feel it. We smell something, we hear. So we feel with the senses, but we can also feel with the mind. Our minds feel something in a good mood. Our mind feels something painful. We feel in the mind that. Even the body doesn't, isn't it? Just like you saw someone, he was walking and he stepped on some glass. And you saw. And with your mind you're feeling that thing. You didn't step, but with your mind you're feeling. Oh, that thing. He stepped on the glass, he cut his foot is bleeding. Your mind you're feeling that. So mind is also feeling, isn't it? Mind is feeling. Good thing, bad thing. Mind is thinking, good thing, bad thing. And then here also it is mentioned willing. Then when we want to do something. First starts mind. We make decision, mind. Then the mind engages the intelligence. Mind is wanting to do something, then brings the intelligence. Or an intelligence, you work how to do it. I want to do this thing. Now intelligence, you work out for me how to do it. This is the difference between mind and intelligence. Intelligence is just rationalizing how to do the thing. This is intelligence. But mind is actually wanting to do it. It's feeling it, thinking about it. First is the thinking. Actually the order is good. Thinking, first is thinking, then feeling, then willing. And so then when you will, then it will come, the intelligence, then it will come with the physical. So therefore in the yoga practice, any yoga practice begins with the mind. You know, we know in the Ashtanga yoga, we start yama, niyama, all the moral principles, and then asana, pranayama, like that. These are all good. And pratyahara, dharana, but we're withdrawing the mind. Mind has to be withdrawn and then fixed. So now Bhishma is saying that before I was doing all these things, thinking so many different subjects, but now thinking, feeling and willing should just be Krishna. Just be Krishna. And Prabhupada actually mentions here that Bhishma Dev, he was a statesman, the head of the Kuru dynasty. You know, he never accepted the throne, but he was like the elder, the grandfather. He was always consulted. He was looking after the Dhritarashtra, he was looking after all, because of all Guru. So his position, he was a statesman, head of the Kuru. He was a great general, leader of the Kshatriyas, and so on so many different subject matters. But now he thought that I don't want to be, you know, my mind going to all these things. I want to fix cent percent on the pure devotional service. And he wanted to think of Lord Krishna. That's why, you know, on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, before Shikandi was in the front, there was one time before that where that when Duryodhana complained to Bhishma Dev that you are showing favoritism to the Pandavas, especially you're showing favoritism to Arjuna, you're killing so many others, but I notice you're not killing them. Why? You're supposed to be on my side. Why are you doing? So he said that, yes, I said I will be fighting on your behalf, so I have to do my duty. So then he said that as far as Arjuna, that I give my word that either I will die or he will die. Only one will be able to save the situation, will be Krishna. So actually when he was attacking Arjuna, Arjuna was fighting, he was a very great warrior also, but before Bhishma he couldn't stand. And Bhishma was winning, so Krishna thought that, well, this is not going exactly to my plan. Of course everything he's planned, even he knew that about Bhishma. But then he jumped off the chariot and he took up one the wheel and he ran. You've all seen the painting like that, where he's running. Of course, that Arjuna ran after him, but when Krishna was running to Bhishma Dev was very happy. He actually, here's my Lord. He threw his weapons, come on, kill me. He said, to be killed by Krishna is not a very ordinary thing. Every one of us is being killed by the material energy in so many ways. But if you can be killed by God, you are going to God. Actually, it is said that all those who died on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, they attained the heavens, and ultimately they went back home, back to Godhead. Even the Duryodhana. Because they died in the presence of Krishna. So that's not ordinary fighting. So Bhishma Dev was very happy to see Krishna running towards him with the wheel spinning like the Sudarshan chakra, and he threw his weapons and he opened his arms. Come on, Krishna, I've been waiting, I've lived long life, now is my time. But then of course Arjuna ran after Krishna and held his foot. No, you can't you gave your word that you will not fight, you will break your word, don't do this. So then Krishna put down and then he went back again. So, but then of course later on with Shikandi, he was able to, because then they went to see him, as I mentioned. They went to see him, how we can defeat you. We cannot defeat you. So he gave the clue about Shikandi. You know, Shikandi formerly was, you know that story of Shikandi. That formerly Shikandi was Amba. You know, when Bhishma Dev was arranging for the marriage of Vichitravirya, that he went to one dynasty and he won Swayamvar, and he kidnapped all the 3 princesses. And but of course Amba was wanting to marry someone else, but and she couldn't marry him either. So anyway, I won't go into the full story, but Amba came back, she worshipped Lord Shiva, and she came back in the next life as Shikandi. And she got the boon from Lord Shiva that she will be the death of Bhishma Dev, because Bhishma Dev had caused her so much trouble in the former life. So that all these stories are interconnected and everything. And very wonderful stories. But the main thing is that now Bhishma Dev is offering his prayers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And in this particular section of the Srimad Bhagavatam, all these different prayers and the description of the Supreme Personality of God. And now, the Bhishma Dev was specifically a devotee of Lord Vishnu. So when Krishna came there, he was meditating on him, and Krishna very kindly manifested his four-armed form of Lord Vishnu to Bhishma Dev, because Krishna knew that his worshipful Lord was the four-armed Vishnu form. So therefore he manifested that form. What to learn, that how one lives their life very morally, how one lives their life in a very devotional way. What are the instructions? We can read the instructions of Bhishma Dev to Yudhisthira, and so he is one of the great Mahajans, one of those who give the instruction. A life of sacrifice for others, and remaining true to that the whole life, his whole life. See, in the Kali Yuga, people haven't got much determination for anything. They say one thing, but within a week or 2 weeks they break that thing. Isn't it? Just like in the Western countries, very famous. Just like now, it's coming up New Year's Eve. So it's very famous. New Year's Eve, you take some vows for the new year, and just like someone may say, "Oh, now it's New Year's, I'm giving up smoking. No more smoking." But then after 2 weeks, he again starts smoking. So, because there's no determination, and why? Because actually, determination comes from following strictly some principles, and then when one follows principles strictly, then one becomes stronger in mind and stronger in intelligence. But because the people of Kali Yuga are just indulging willy-nilly in anything and everything, they've got no strong determination, or if they have determination, it is mainly Rajaguna, passionate, and they're going strongly, but it's for a certain result, and if they get their result, they're happy. If they don't get the result, they give up. See, it's result-orientated determination. But the other determination in the mode of goodness and on the spiritual platform, that doesn't matter, success, failure, whatever, just do your duty. This is higher level. Just like Bhishma Dev. He did his duty his whole life. He tried to help the situation. Of course, he was unfortunately compromised in ways, and some people may criticize Bhishma Dev, why he didn't take action in the disrobing of Draupadi, why he went on the side of the Duryodhana, all these things. But we cannot criticize such a great personality like Bhishma Dev. He had his reason, and he's a very great person, and we should try to follow in the footsteps. We can't exactly be like Bhishma Dev, but he is such a great person. But we follow in the footsteps of all these great personalities like Bhishma Dev. And main thing, now Prabhupada gave us a nice process of we just chanting. While we're working, we can do the chanting and everything given by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But especially as one becomes older and older, just like Bhishma Dev, then one becomes more, there's the two paths, Svadharma and Sanatana Dharma. So in the life, Svadharma, your occupation, has to go. Sanatana Dharma, your spiritual activity, that also has to go together. But gradually one becomes older, then Svadharma, you're becoming old, you're retired now, there's no need to worry about that. You concentrate more on the Sanatana Dharma, the spiritual activities, especially in the older age. So we see the example of Bhishma Dev, that now he was concentrating in the last moments of his life. He wanted to see the form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that's what the devotees aspire to, and we practice our whole lives to try to remember Krishna. Because especially, you know, in the easy times, maybe we go to the temple, it's a very nice festival or something like that, we're chanting everyone together, we can remember Krishna. But in the tough times, can we remember Krishna? That is the real test, in the tough times. So the tough times, one can remain in the Krishna consciousness. One has been practicing and following in the footsteps of the great acharyas and the great Mahajans like Bhishma Dev. So Bhishma Dev ki Jai, Prabhupada ki Jai, all the assembled devotees ki Jai, Lord Premanande. Well, thank you very much, Hare Krishna. As I said, it's my pleasure to be with you here tonight and have your association and just be able to discuss a great personality like Bhishma Dev. A great fortune to be able to speak on someone like Bhishma Dev. And so if anyone has any comment they want to make or any question.
Thank you for a wonderful class. My questions might not be directly related to Bhishma Dev, but just in general. You mentioned Prabhupada spoke about the definition of a Vaishnava and how he associates with devotees. So my question is more about devotee association, devotee sangha. Can you briefly elaborate on the importance of Vaishnava association, especially when it's very disheartening to see sometimes when Vaishnavas don't get along, leading to aparadh or stopping service in that way?
Yes, because you know, Lord Chaitanya actually said that there's two things: chanting Hare Krishna and associating with the devotees. One has to do the whole life. Of course, we have to be careful not to make insults or make offense. And actually, this was one of the teachings of Bhishma Dev. Don't insult anyone, don't make any offense to anyone, don't have hatred to anyone. These are some of the instructions of Bhishma Dev to Yudhishthira Maharaj. Don't use the harsh language. There's another instruction of Bhishma Dev to Yudhishthira Maharaj and to all of us. So therefore, when we're associating, we should be mindful of these things. But association is very essential because, you know, especially in Kali Yuga, with the effect of the age of Kali, very materialistic, even we take up the Krishna consciousness, we are individual, we are just on the beginner, and we may be very affected by so many things going on in the world. So therefore, it's recommended by Lord Chaitanya, Srila Prabhupada, yes, associate with others who also engage in the spiritual practice, and especially you know, those who are more advanced. You should seek out the association. This is devotee. Seeks out the association of more advanced and associates with those on the same level and gives association to the younger ones. So these three levels of association should be there. And then you benefit by giving the association, they'll benefit. By each others, you can discuss very casually with each other in a relaxing mood. And for as far as the senior Vaishnavas, you very humble, respectfully, you sit and you hear them and you inquire from them and you associate with them and see how they are doing the things. And then one becomes inspired, one becomes enthusiastic just by that association. A very, very important thing. Just by a moment's sadhu sangha, sarva shrestaka, lava matra sadhu sangha, sadhu siddhi hai. Just by a lava matra, an 11th of a moment of association can break all the material attachments. Just like with Prabhupada, we may have read some book and we may have done some chanting, but when we saw Prabhupada, he's so powerful presence, because with the advanced devotees, God is very much manifesting with them, within their heart. God reciprocates with all of us, but He's manifesting according to us, how much we want. This one, he wants only a little bit, so a little bit I'll listen. This one, very advanced, Oh, I'm greatly manifesting. So therefore you feel not only the presence of, but also God is there, very much manifesting. So that benefit you get, and that you feel. So therefore, a very powerful effect, just by being in the presence, by hearing the instruction, by following the instruction. So these things are very, very important. And just like the material platform, just like, you know, if you're working in the IT, how to enhance that, better to work with others in the IT, learn from those in the, if you're working as an architect, lawyer, medicine, you work in the field, with others. So even on the material platform, association is very, very important. Therefore we see in the world, they make many clubs. The golf club, the tennis club, the cricket club. But because people with similar interests encourage one another. Something you know can benefit the other one, something that one knows can benefit you. So association on all levels, even materially, is very beneficial. Not to speak of spiritually. So if we're interested, if we're serious about spiritual advancement, then we'll associate with other spiritually minded people, with the devotees. Because as you said, we have to be careful, don't use the harsh word, don't be insulting, don't create offenses. These things we have to be careful. This will actually be very counterproductive. So one has to be very, very careful. For that, Krishna is not very happy in these situations. But at the same time, it's very essential, along with the chanting Lord Chaitanya said, sadhu sangha, sadhu sangha. Ado sadhu, tada sadhu sangha, bhajana kriya, associating and then bhajana. We start the process very nicely.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. A question, like you mentioned when Bhishma Dev was on the bed of arrows,
When he was what?
on the bed of arrows, then he talked about that shloka in Bhagavatam. Were there instances when he had that inclination when he was young, or when he was in his early life, or
What inclination?
of looking or of finding Krishna or wishing to see Krishna? Why did it happen, or was it the only instance when he was at the end of his life and that's when he wanted to see Krishna, or has it happened before also?
No. There's many instances in the life of Bhishma Dev right from the very beginning. Just like there's the instance in the Rajasuya sacrifice, when Yudhishthira wanted to make Krishna the chief, honorary person, and then that Shishupal objected. Oh, why this Krishna? He had some envious feeling towards Krishna. So then Bhishma Dev became very angry. He knew what the position of Krishna was. So right from the beginning of the life, he knew what is the position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So not only at that time. So he was always devotee, but he had his duties to perform. So this was, and you can read many stories and instances where Bhishma Dev is reciprocating with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So not all of a sudden like that. Generally it doesn't happen, even with us, it doesn't happen all of a sudden. Because, and that's why Prabhupada said from the beginning of life try to practice the Krishna consciousness. Because if you leave to the end, then what's the guarantee you'll be able to think of Krishna? But if you practice your whole life, then naturally you will come. You will think, because actually someone who's been doing something a long time, and at the end of the life they'll also be thinking that thing. Just like the karmis, they do so many things, and at the end of their life they think about those things. So we as devotees, we practice our whole life, so at the end of the life we think about Krishna. So Bhishma Dev could think about so intensely about Krishna because actually his whole life was very much in devotion to the Supreme Personality of God.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Maharaj, you mentioned that all the fighters that fought in the battle of Kurukshetra eventually ended up going back to Godhead because they died in the presence of Krishna.
Can you hold a little bit further because it's not further away, yeah. No, a little bit closer, but not so much on the...
Hare Krishna.
That's it.
So you mentioned that everyone who died in the battle of Kurukshetra ended up going back to Godhead because they died in the presence of Krishna. My question is on presence of Krishna. If people today, devotees today, if they pass away while people are chanting, while people are doing kirtan around them, then I've heard that when you're doing kirtan, Krishna is personally present. But would that still have the same effect if that person passes away, of dying in the presence of Krishna and hence going back to Godhead, even if that person himself cannot remember Krishna at the end of their life?
Well, definitely that person, if he dies, just happens to die, the Harinam party is coming past or something like that, they'll benefit. How much Krishna is manifesting at that time in the Harinam will depend on the chanting, the chanters, the chanters of the Harinam. How much Krishna is manifesting in that Harinam. You imagine in the kirtan of the Goswamis in Vrindavan at Seva Kunjo, you know, when they all come together and they were doing the chanting together, they were reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, how much Krishna was present there. So Krishna manifests more or less. Certainly in the battle of Kurukshetra, he was personally present, he was very much manifest. Now all those who, eventually some went to the heavens first and then they went, and as far as their liberation, all different levels of the liberation. Some were more intimate than the others were less intimate. But still, Prabhupada, I was just reading actually just a few weeks ago where Prabhupada very much emphasized, a question was asked of him during the battle of Kurukshetra, because Krishna was present, all those, the soldiers, everyone, because Krishna was personally present, he gave that blessing to them, that they were all like that. As far as, you know, Harina or someone just casually, they'll benefit. But exactly what their position, that's up to Krishna.
What if it's around, around the deathbed where you know it's a devotee dying, and devotees actually surround it and start doing it? Krishna, the devotee can't remember Krishna when he dies.
Yeah, that'll be up to Krishna, up to that devotee, how much he's thinking of Krishna. But the difference between Kurukshetra Krishna gave a special blessing for that particular Kurukshetra, that these soldiers, because this is my plan, and they are before me, and the special blessing, I'm taking them. No matter what their condition, they'll be going back to God. But certainly they'll, according to the circumstance of each individual, if you're chanting around that devotee, up to that devotee also, up to Krishna. Krishna can decide. But say sometimes that devotee even the devotees are there, he's thinking something else. Just like we know ourselves, we're in the kirtan, we're looking on phone. Isn't it? Kirtan's going, everyone's jumping, but we're just looking phone, thinking completely something else. So it's up to us also. But Kurukshetra is something special.
We just celebrated the Bhishma Panchaka. So now we are talking about Bhishma Pitamaha. Can you please tell us more about Bhishma Panchaka, how it has come?
Well, Bhishma Panchaka is the equivalent of the 5 last days of Bhishma in this world. And so and at the time was just passed because of the last 5 days of the Kartik month, and that was at the last. So Bhishma did some tapasya, and actually it is said that on each day one can do different tapasyas according to the Shastra. This day you can do this tapasya, the other day you can do this one, and then leading up to for the 5 days and leading up to the last day. It's said if one can follow these last 5 days, then the whole month, you get the whole month benefit just in maybe you didn't follow before, but if you can follow the last 5 days, these ones give you even more benefit of following even before the whole month. So Bhishma, that equates to Bhishma's last 5 days. When he left the world, it was at the end of the 5 days, and he left at that time when the sun travelled in a certain northern area. And so this was the situation. Bhishma Panchaka.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Who was Kuru?
Who?
Kuru.
who was gurus.
King Kuru.
Yeah.
King Kuru was he was one of the kings in the line of the dynasty. So he was a great king and you can read in the Bhagavatam also, it gives the whole genealogical line of the kings. So because now sometimes when the kings are very famous, they're very moral, they're very acting very nicely. After them, the dynasty is known by their name. So King Kuru is one of the kings in the dynasty, and from that time they are known as the Kurus.
Kurus before Mahabharata.
Yeah, years before.
Yeah. And how is Kurukshetra is Dharmakshetra? How is Kurukshetra is Dharmakshetra? Kurukshetra is a Dharmakshetra.
Dharmakshetra, Kurukshetra, yeah. Kurukshetra, Dharmakshetra, because actually that place from long time before, that was holy place because Lord Brahma used to come there. Lord Brahma himself used to come there and do yajna in this place. And from that time it was known as the Dharmakshetra. There was one king who also did some tapasya there and did some penance. And from his time, the King Kuru actually, he did some penance there and tapasya, and then he got the darshan of the Supreme Lord there at that place, and from that time the Lord gave him the blessing. From this time, this will be known as the Kurukshetra and Dharmakshetra, because before that even Lord Brahma used to come and do yajna, used to do the holy activities in that place.
Krishna Maharaj. My question is that you mentioned that we have two duties, material duties and the spiritual duties. And as we grow older, then we only concentrate on our spiritual duties. Like when we are younger, like we tend to sometimes ignore one duty for the other. Like sometimes we ignore material duties when we are doing spiritual duties, and vice versa. So, like, how do we maintain the balance, and what are the implications of not being able to maintain the balance?
The implications. Well, that will vary from individual to individual. General thing, one should always follow. Prabhupada actually instructed us, especially if one becomes disciple, and one gives a promise to their guru that he will follow certain principles. Now one time one disciple came to Prabhupada and said, Prabhupada, I haven't been following. And Prabhupada said, but you promised. You promised to me, you promised in the yajna, you promised in front of the deity. You made promise. So at least you have to follow the principles given to you by the guru. Always the chanting on the 16 rounds, and following the principles, attending the program, everything like that. So as long as you're doing like that every day, and then especially Prabhupada one time said, if you can in the morning do your round chanting, and then your whole day is good. But Prabhupada sometimes when he was working, we read that sometimes he couldn't chant all his rounds, and so he would chant maybe 4, and then later on a little bit another 4, and then another later on another 4, and a little 4 later on, like that, and he would chant his whole rounds during the day. So the balance is always the difficult. The whole life is a struggle to get the balance. But at least we have to, when we get initiated, we have to follow. Yeah, so at least you have to, if you just follow those principles given to you by the guru, then and whatever way the balance goes, because as I said, it'll be different from each individual, just go back to that. So at least we've got some goal. We've got long-term goal. And Prabhupada said the problem in the world is that they may have interim goal, but there's no long-term goal, no proper long-term goal. They may have what they call long-term, but it's not a spiritual goal. The long-term goal should be the spiritual goal. So if you keep the long-term goal, they're always there, and you're given the principles given by Guru, and you follow that, and you're always going to the, then maybe you'll go a little bit this side one, maybe you go the other side, but then you always have to bring yourself to get to the goal like that. So I'm speaking generally because, as I said, the individual will be different. So as far as the individual circumstances, then they can just talk to the senior devotees, they can talk to their Guru, and about how to, you know, achieve a nice balance. But in general, the general principle should be like that. You always keep the long-term goal there. I want to be Krishna conscious, I want to go back home, back to Godhead, so therefore, wherever way I go, I'm just going to keep that always in the front. And then you'll eventually, even though sometimes you go here, at least if you go to the goal, that is the end result is the main thing. The end result. Okay, thank you very much. Maybe one last question if anyone has. Does anyone have a last question? One, Mataji.
There's a mic there.
Haven't had any Mataji.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. My question is that you said that Bhishma Deva waited for 2 months to leave his material body. So, like as we learn from Bhagavad Gita, that yogis who leave their material body in presence of Krishna, so they don't have to basically wait for any auspicious time or anything. So why did he have to wait for 2 months to leave his material body?
Well, he wanted to leave at the auspicious time, and he understood that there was some other purpose for him to stay on. So because of his advancement himself, he knew there was another plan of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. For him, there was a little bit more service to be done. And that's why he remained in his position on the battlefield. And coincidentally, the good time came. You know, of course, the good time came. We may think that is the principal reason, because he wanted to live by the good time. But actually, that was coincidental. The real reason was that he knew there was some more, that actually Krishna, and Krishna wanted Yudhisthira to hear from Bhishma Dev, to glorify Bhishma Dev, and at the same time, Bhishma Dev knew that Krishna wanted to impart some last instructions to Yudhisthira Maharaj. So when one is advanced devotee, they understand more and more what is the plan of the Lord for engaging them in his service. So Bhishma Dev, the Acharyas explain like that Bhishma Dev knew that he should stay and not immediately leave, because Krishna had some other plan for him, not yet finished yet. And even though he was lying on the bed of the arrows and some pain was there, still he was able to tolerate that, being the great personality he was, and also understanding that Krishna had some more service for him. So therefore he was actually feeling very, even though in pain, internally he was feeling very happy within. So the great Acharyas explained that situation as far as Bhishma is concerned. All right, thank you very much, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.